So quite a number of years ago, the following story was shared with me. This experience was shared with me. A mother and a daughter had a horrible, just an absolutely horrible argument. And as a result, the daughter packed up and basically disappeared from her mother's life. And overcome with that grief and that separation, the mother went in search of her daughter. She believed that she had moved to a larger city that was about a little over an hour drive from their small hometown. And so every day she would drive into that city and she would search the streets trying to find her daughter. And this went on for about 3 months. And then she still continued to go in whenever possible, but she started hanging these notes, these messages all around town. She left them hanging on bathroom mirrors. She stuck them on telephone poles. If a small gas station would let her, she would pin it to their bulletin board. And the note was pretty simple. No matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've become, it does not matter. Just come home. And she would go in and she would post these messages, and over a year passes, right? And she's hanging these messages, and finally, one day her daughter calls, and she ends up coming home. Now, her daughter relayed this story for me, and the power of that message. It doesn't matter. Just come home. And I share this with you because if we stop and we really ponder the word that we hear proclaimed today, that is the essence of the message that we receive from God. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've become, it doesn't matter. Just come home. That invitation from God to come home, that great desire and that love of God that simply wants us to experience the fullness and the abundant life that He has prepared for us. And as we open ourselves to the experience of God in our life, it is that in accepting that invitation to His vineyard, it is in coming home that we come to know the life that God meant us to have and the life that God desperately wants us to have. And it really always begins with the love of God, right? It's God that comes to us. It's God that invites us. Time and time and time and time again, God breaks into our life, simply inviting us to come home. And ultimately, the ultimate experience of that grace, that glory, that unconditional love of God is the sending of His very Son. The life poured out upon the cross to give us life, to enable us to ultimately come home. The reality of our journey is that we accept the invitation of God's love, right? The redeeming grace of God's love. And we take the journey to go home. And then in accepting that invitation, what we do then experience is this incredible generosity of that love. That incredible generosity of God's love as it is poured down upon us as we enter into the vineyard, as we experience the life that He meant us to have. Yet as we hear that word proclaimed, as we hear God speak to us, there's something unsettling about that, isn't there? That parable we hear today. There's something that bothers us about it. And you know what bothers us? Is because we agree with the ones who got there in the early morning, right? So here I've been working hard all day, right? I've been working diligently for you in your vineyard, and yet you're going to give them the same thing. There's something not just about that, right? They haven't, in other words, earned it. And they certainly don't deserve it because they haven't been laboring all the time. And if you think about our faith, isn't that how we feel? Right? I've been laboring it. Why should they experience the same thing as I've been working and toiling and walking in faith and getting up every day and endeavoring to do that every day of my life? There is something about that that bothers us. And let's face it, we can't earn it. And we certainly don't deserve it. There is no way possible we could ever earn and deserve the life of Jesus Christ sacrificed upon the cross to give us life. Even every Sunday as we gather at this Eucharistic feast and Christ again pours out his life to feed us in the great Eucharist, right? We don't earn that. It is this incredible, generous gift of God's love. That's what it's about. And the experience of that love poured out upon us is what leads us to accept the invitation to go into the vineyard. And what we forget is, as we're walking with God, as we're experiencing his transforming love in our life, we experience those abundant blessings and graces. We discover purpose and meaning for our existence. We experience the redeeming grace that frees us from the sin and the darkness that imprisons and destroys our hearts and our minds and our bodies. We know the glory of that love of God as he provides for us, as he feeds us, as he sustains us, as he guides us, as he directs us along the way. That generous love is poured upon us day in and day out in the living presence and the power of the Holy Spirit that raises us up into the glory of who we are as children of God, enabling us to overcome limitations and weaknesses and becoming far more than we would ever be by ourselves. We experience that generous love in countless ways every day. And it's nothing we earned. And it's nothing we deserved. It is this incredible gift. And so ultimately, what God leads us to is a clear understanding of what heaven is, right? Heaven isn't the reward for getting up every day and walking the path of faith. It's a gift. It's a gift of this incredible love of God. It is the destination that the transforming love and grace of God leads us to experience. So think about our faith, right? We talk about the three great things of our faith. What are the three great concepts of our faith? Faith, hope, and love. When we get to our ultimate destination, our faith has been fulfilled. We're seeing God face to face, right? Our hope has been fulfilled. Our hope has been completely fulfilled. And what remains is the experience of the love, right? That is what heaven is about. That experience of the fullness of God's love in our life. It's not a reward. We don't earn it. We don't deserve it. It is a gift given. And so when St. Paul talks about, in my flesh, I experience the fruitfulness of God. In my life, in that transforming grace, I experience heaven here on earth. Now, not in its fullness, because that's the ultimate destination. That's the transforming power of the grace of the cross, right? And so we gather and we hold before ourselves the reality of why we're even here. Because we have accepted the invitation. An invitation to enter into God's vineyard and experience the life that he wants to give us, the love that he has for us. And in that experience of that transforming love, we know life and continue to experience life as it is meant to be.